morning.
Here with this amazing man again today. I'm Melisa and Nielsen with Waldorf Essentials, and you are?
Erik Nielsen.
Also with Waldorf Essentials. Today we're just doing like a temperament roundup. It came up that they're kind of on my mind. One, people keep asking me, what temperament test should you take? Stop it. Don't take a temperament test. Don't do it. This is why those are super, super, super flawed. Like, super flawed. And have you ever taken one?
No.
I don't think you ever did. I think...
But I think that the best way to figure that out is to ask yourself what motivates you in certain situations.
I think so too. Like when you're sick or when you're mad or all of those things. Yes. Or success-wise or... Yeah, I think that's a great...
I think if you're melancholic, you're motivated by how things feel emotionally. Mm-hmm. If you're phlegmatic, you're motivated by how comfortable something is. And if you're sanguine, you're motivated by...
how exciting it is.
Yeah,
is it going to be boring?
Yeah, what's the most exciting thing to do at the moment? Not that they tend to be like, I'm going to go jump off a cliff type of thing.
No, but they tend to be like, okay, this is boring. Like, next, please.
Well, I could tell us phlegmatic in social situations because I've been in situations where I've been talking to somebody and they'll walk off mid-sentence.
Oh, sanguine, you mean? Like mid-sentence?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I go, am I a boring person? And people go, no, you're not boring.
They're just a butterfly.
Easily distracted. And then Choleric is motivated by, I need to get this done. And I don't care how it gets done, but it's getting done.
It's getting done. I like what you said about like how things are motivated. I also, some of the questions that I got more than just what temperament test should you take was how do I know what my child is? So first, figure out yourself. This is a put the air mask on yourself before you put the air mask on your child. But and in that process of figuring out yourself, you're going to figure out everybody around you, I think. I think you're going to see those things in everybody around you. And again, I really think that this is very different from personality tests because temperament is attached, I believe, to your soul. And everything else sort of rides on top. And so you can score, like I thought when we started the personality test stuff with our business mentor, I thought, I'm going to be able to figure out like these go with this temperament. Nope. No. Because what I found was that, the more introverted temperaments tended to be the same, but no, because on the Myers-Briggs, I show up introverted. And it's like in that case, it's how you show up with other people. And this is about like what motivates you. The temperament there is a bug in here. Anyway, it likes my hair.
And noisy birds outside.
And noisy parrots. I'll take the parrots. My hair's kind of crazy today. So when you're working through figuring out your own temperament, study. And then what I would do is I would listen to the other videos that we did because we did 4 videos last month, one on each temperament. And so I would watch those or listen to those. And then I would meditate on it and ponder it. And you might say, well, why is this so important? Why is this so important? Why do you think it's important?
Why do I think
like understanding temperament is important?
Well, it's kind of a roadmap. It's kind of a how can I help motivate with love in a way that meets them. Because if the temperament's a blind spot, you can get into all sorts of trouble.
Right.
With a melancholic person, you could try to use humor and it'll make them angry.
Right.
Like you can't, how dare you try to make me feel any better?
Right.
Because
don't make me feel better.
This is my feelings
okay.
right now.
Right.
And I need my feelings respected.
Right. The best thing you could say to a melancholy that's struggling, that you can see is struggling, is, I hear you. I'm sorry.
With a phlegmatic,
how can I help?
With a phlegmatic, if you get in their face and start yelling, they're going to be like...
They're going to shut down.
They'll shut down, or if you overwhelm them, they're like, I can't do this anyway.
If you really make them mad, though, that sleepy choleric might come out, and you might get more than you ever bargained for.
Yes.
Because I will tell you that the sleeping choleric part in this guy, it gets angrier than I could ever get as a choleric. But it's short. It crashes down and then it's done. It's like he used up all of his energy for that. And it's done.
So, I mean, it's a way to navigate all sorts of situations.
It is. I think it's about like really understanding then sort of how other people are setting, you know, how other people are showing up and then how you are meeting them. So one person says, I find it so hard to commit to one or two. So then you've got to keep studying because most people have one primary and generally one secondary, but it might be your secondary might be split between two, and that's okay. But knowing that primary is what governs you. There are times like for me, I'm choleric with a touch of sanguine, with like a little drop or 2 or 10 of sanguine, and so what I find in myself is the sanguine comes out more when I'm exhausted. And I haven't rested or I haven't connected, I haven't gotten myself centered. That sanguine comes out more because that's the fringe. That's the fringe Melissa. That's the person that's like, I gotta get all these things done. But when the choleric like takes back charge, then I can prioritize. I can lead through what needs to happen. But that can only happen when I am feeling rested. And so I think that when you're sort of sorting out what temperaments you are or what temperament you are, figuring out, okay, well, I have these that I think are secondaries. What lights those secondaries up? Because, there are different things that are going to light them up. And then the idea is to definitely balance because, Steiner said that you should be able to stand in all four comfortably. That doesn't mean that's what it doesn't mean you're all of them. But as you balance and you govern yourself, you should be able to chill with a phlegmatic and give empathy to a melancholy. Absolutely. You should be able to, and multitask if needed, but it's not something that should be your go-to all the time. So, being able to slow down and really go within, that's going to be your key to finding out exactly where you really are. And we've had a couple of people this last week say, it wasn't until I listened to your video, like for the 4th time, that I actually realized that this was me. And that's because sometimes we don't want to hear it. Mm-hmm. We don't want to hear it. You know how many people say to me, I don't want to be melancholy? And I'm like, why? I know melancholies get a bad rap, but I love my melancholy friends. I love them because they are truly, they help me refine my own issues with empathy. So I don't sell yourself short. So the other things that I got this over the last month questions were like, is there a way to know about your kids before they're, because usually you don't truly know until they are 9 or above, like truly know, like this is what we've got going for us. And then some things sometimes change in puberty. But one of the things that I have observed myself is that I think you can know some things. Think about how your children were, especially if you already know your children's temperaments. Think about how they were as babies. Because there again, that's kind of this pure state. And even though like 0 to about 5 or 6, 4 to 4, 4 or 5 is a very choleric time in their life because they need you so much. They need you. They need you to feed them, to change them, to, all of those things. They need you to live. Even though that's a pretty choleric time in their life, so they're like emoting more, like they're being louder more. What you can do is really be able to step back and look at how they were as babies. So I would say that a choleric child that's choleric was a demanding baby. And I'm not talking about a whiny baby, a baby that was always sad, because I had those too. But a choleric child is generally like, I need you to pay attention to me right now, all the time. I was talking about temperament in babies.
Yes.
And so I was thinking about Soraya. And I think that choleric children often started off as like demanding babies, but not in a like whiny demanding way. Like I think about Jacob as a baby. He was sweet baby, but he was so sad all the time. So sad. Where Soraya she wasn't sad. She was just like, this is what I need and I need it right now. Like, I think she's still that way. She's 8. She's still that way. And then I think about Sam as a baby. Like Sam, he's like Mr. Cool Cucumber. We had this bassinet that he was actually never sleeping in, but we would lay him in it because it was a family bassinet. We would lay him in it and it was under a window. And he would just lay there and watch the squirrels in the tree. That's a bassinet.
Oh, okay. That's what it's called.
It's a tiny crib. He would just lay there and watch the squirrels in the trees. And that's him now. Very dreamy, very laid back. Like, it's all good. He would nurse for hours. Like, take a long time. But then when he was ready to wean, he wanted to go be with his sister, and he slept with Ellie for a long time. It was all about comfort and being cozy, and she wanted somebody to be cozy. So I think that if you can step back and look at your children as babies. Also, again, think about how you are or how others are when they're angry. So when they're angry, is it about what you're doing to me? So when I get mad as a mom, some of it is like, why are you disrespecting me? But it's not like, I can't believe you did that to me. It's not like that. It's more of like, I can't believe you disrespected me. And in like I'm using that as an example, but that's like not something that happens generally. What I generally say is, did you want to try that again? Oh yes. So sorry, Mom. Don't want to talk like that. But if you are more melancholy inclined, you are taking it as a personal attack. I don't take it as a personal attack. I'm just like, wait a minute, that's not how it's supposed to be. Proud melancholy, just wish I could get rid of the perfectionism. Do you have some phlegmatic in you, Erin? Often the two go together, like the perfectionism. The perfectionism can be one of two things. If you've got phlegmatic in there too, that perfectionism is from like, you want to get it completely right. If there's not, the perfectionism comes from this fear of not being able to perform the way you want. And so because you're afraid of being judged. The phlegmatic is not generally afraid of being judged unless she or he has got a fair amount of melancholy going in there. Then they're generally not afraid of being judged. They're generally more like, I just don't want to do this. Or I want to make sure that what I am putting forward is perfect. So it's generally not as much from the being judged place. Becca Joy says, my second daughter was fascinated by the leaves and trees, and she'd lay there for an hour and just watch them. Yeah, that was Super Sam. Let's see, over here we've got, I've heard you talk about many temperament combinations in your temperament videos. Is there a sanguine phlegmatic? Yes, this guy. They seem so opposite, yet those two I connect with the most. So it's more like phlegmatic sanguine, I would say. I don't know that I've ever seen somebody that's sanguine and then phlegmatic. I've definitely seen phlegmatic with a sanguine, and phlegmatic melancholy go together as well. In fact, that's probably the phlegmatic one that I see the most. It's a phlegmatic melancholy. But often that phlegmatic melancholy is like a melancholy sanguine split on the other end. So I would just keep studying, because here's the thing. You don't ever get the work done. Just keep going. Keep studying. It shouldn't be like on my to-do list today to find out my temperament. No, it should be like on your life's to-do list to find out your temperament so that you can work with others. What would you say from a dad's perspective temperament has helped you the most with?
Well,
and I know we've talked about this before, but I think it's good to reiterate it.
Well, it's good for you and I to know each other's temperaments.
Oh, absolutely. Because there are things that he knows how I'm going to react to something, and I know how he's going to react to something. Doesn't have anything to do with our personalities. It has everything to do with our temperament.
Because there's times where you see something I did and you doesn't look like the quickest path from A to B, and so it's like,
So
can
then
you
I
explain to
question
me
you.
what your thought process was when you
Right.
did that? And I was like, well, when I did it,
Why,
I
Mom?
considered this and this other thing, and so if I did it this way, then later on,
He's got so much going on up here, and I don't. It's like, if it's not in my planner, it's not. I mean, yeah, I have stuff going on up here, but not like that. Like, I have to write it all out. I have to see it. I have to be like, I have to see it, and I have to be able to check a box.
that doesn't mean like I have everything figured out perfectly, but
No, but generally you are super, super methodical. And in the beginning, I think when we first got married, I would, not offended, but I'd be like irritated. But now I'm like, I'll just say, you've got this, right? And he's like, yep, I do. And I know to trust. I know to trust.
But I mean, as a parent, I know Sam's motivated by being comfortable, and there are times in life where that just doesn't work.
No.
And so I know that's the lesson I need to teach him, is sometimes you just need to get things done and focus.
Because the comfort comes after. The comfort
Yeah.
comes after you get over the hump. I was talking to a mom the other day, and you were actually there with me. And she was talking about how, well, first, she was trying to write a rhythm that she could get into, rather than she was trying to skip the step of doing her actual rhythm chart.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, you have to do the actual rhythm chart, because writing out a pretty rhythm, that's fine and good. But 9 times out of 10, that is not going to work for you if you haven't lived it first. So first you need to do the actual rhythm chart and see where you already have natural rhythm, and see where your holes are. So then you can make the pretty rhythm chart that you can follow based on what you naturally already do. And so she was wanting to skip that step. And then she was telling me, well, it's never working. I make these charts and we stick with it for a couple of days, and then I can't stick with it. But we talked about, after you do the actual rhythm chart, then you got to be uncomfortable. You just got to get over the hump. And that for the phlegmatic, getting over the hump it's a real deal. It's a real deal. But once you're over the hump, then it's a habit.
Yeah.
And you crave it.
And I sometimes go to the place of, I just need to rip the Band-Aid off fast because I'm tired of messing with XYZ. It's like when I talk, sometimes I'm willing to take something extremely uncomfortable if it gets over quicker.
He didn't get himself knocked out for his wisdom teeth.
Because I was told I'd recover faster if I was awake during it. And I was like, yeah, let's do that.
If you were a woman, it would never be a question in your mind as to whether or not you're going to have natural birth. You'd be like, if it's faster and I'll recover quicker, I'm done. I'm there. I'm down for it.
Yeah.
But there were other things. It seems like there was something else that you had done that you were like, no, if I just do it, well, like he'll come back from the chiropractor and he'll be like, man, they beat me up. I go, and you didn't say anything? Nope, I just took it. Not me. I'd be like, that hurts. Please stop. And I have a pretty high pain threshold, so it's kind of funny but he knows that getting through it will help him and it gets over the hump.
With Soraya, I have to navigate extreme choleric.
This was Mother's Day yesterday. Mom, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. We're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And I looked at her and I said, it's not Soraya's Day.
It's like, we're
Mother's
coming
Day.
home from church.
That means mother gets to sit and do nothing. Really?
We were coming home from church. She says, I think we need to make cookies today. We're like,
Nope. Not happening. Not happening. But because she's she's very driven.
Yeah, like my situation just now.
Oh, what was she upset about?
She had her flashlight and she saw the remnants of a spider web.
Oh, and she thought there might have been a spider in it?
Well, there wasn't. It was just kind of like a dangling piece of spider web that I hadn't noticed before. And she had shined a light so the shadow did something funky.
Oh, yes. And then it looks like there's something in it.
And then I went, she's like, there's something weird in my room. And I went upstairs and she shined the light. And I was like, that's just a piece of a spider web that's been abandoned. Don't worry about it. Then I went back downstairs and then she came back down and said, but it's still bothering me.
Did you take care of it?
So then I got the broom and I swept it away.
Yeah, she's funny. She's very she's might be a little bit like her mother.
Yeah.
I think she has a lot of sanguine in her, but not as much as I do. At least not at this point. We're not seeing it as much.
Because
this is a choleric is, but I also think she's got some spectrum stuff going on. So I think there's more.
There's times I wish the sanguine was stronger because she gets fixated on some project and it's like I wish she would get distracted and it's like something that will involve like 5 cardboard boxes, 3 rolls of tape, scissors, hot glue gun, and it's like. You're not building an amusement park in the front room.
She wants to. She wants to. She really liked that movie. What was that movie that I took her to see about the amusement park? Wonderland. Was it Wonderland?
Wonder
Park. Wonder Park.
Yeah.
Wonder Park. And it was really good. So it was really, really good. And I don't think it did very well at the theater. So it's probably out on video now. It's a really good movie. I have to tell you the reasons why I liked it was this little girl was a lot like Soraya and she liked to build everything and her mom like built this amusement park together and everybody like on miniature scale and everybody in her neighborhood knew about it. Like, so people would bring her things to put for the amusement park and they, then there were places, it was like but they had one kid. It was like all over their house. And this was something that her and her mom did together. And then her mom got really sick. And so then it's this whole then she puts it away and it was really good. You have to see it. I'm not going to spoil the rest of it for you because it's really good. I just will tell you the mom does not die. Because as I was sitting in the movie theater, I'm like, she better not die. As we're sitting there, just the two of us, because I thought, oh man, I didn't check the parents guide on this one. But no, she doesn't die. I'm going to tell you that right away. It's a really good movie for if you've got kids that are like that want to build everything because the park actually comes to life and that's fun. And it's all about like your imagination and stuff. So I was trying to think of the other things that came up for me this month. And as I'm thinking, if you guys have questions about temperament, please ask them because we're going to be wrapping up here in a second. But so let's see. Temperament in children. Those are the biggest ones. And the pesky temperament test. The reason why I don't want you to take the test is because they're not accurate. Sometimes they're accurate. But you have to take the test when you're feeling really good about yourself and you're in a good place. Because if you don't, then the test is going to come out all skewed. And don't take the test if you're mad. Anything like that. It just doesn't come out right. And you could take the test 4 times and it come out different 4 different times. I've had that happen too. Because I went and tested a bunch of them and I was like, okay, no, these are crap. So I do think the Myers-Briggs tests are probably more accurate. And as far as telling you your Myers-Briggs type. But I think when it comes to temperament, it's not rocket science, but I think that it is definitely something that needs more study. Erin says, is 6.5 too young to tell? I think my son is choleric, but maybe that's just because he is in the willing place. I think it's hard some kids right away. Right away. I have this picture of Soraya that I should find. That's when we were leaving the hospital. Mm-hmm. And she's got that really pissed off look on her face. I knew then. I knew that. Because she was going to have to be a fighter because she was a preemie. So that I think came forward in her temperament very early. But there are other children that you might not know for a while. I will also say, Erin, that so I have 2 children that are melancholy sanguine split, and both of them they were very so one was very melancholy when he was in the early childhood stage. He's my son that you would never know it now because he's my son that's 20, Jacob. He just cried. My mom's still watching. She probably attest to this. He just cried all the time, even when he was 2 and 3, so sad all the time. I have these, I used to take my kids to Sears to get their portraits done. Mm-hmm. And I have one portrait, and you can probably imagine after I tell you this, where it looks like Harry probably beat him up right before him, but he didn't. It was just he was crying. He hated the car. He hated shoes. He hated clothes. He would cry about everything. And I remember thinking, why, God, did you give me this kid? And it as he grew, he became the child that questioned everything. He was always like, but like now I see him as an adult. And because I learned to parent his temperament, he's this amazing human being. I love him to death. He's an amazing human. And so you got to stick with it. But when he was 6.5, he was in this very, very melancholy place. But he did have this like bit of sanguine. And I remember our Waldorf teacher said to me once, don't you think he's more sanguine than melancholy? I'm like, you don't live with him. you don't see what I see. But that helped me see the sanguine stuff that other people were seeing that I wasn't seeing as much. And so it allowed me to like open that door. But our adult daughter, she was very sanguine, very, very sanguine as a child, like very sanguine. So, and now as an adult, she is pretty stuck in her melancholy. And so where she's got that going, and she was super sanguine at like 6.5, you could see the seeds of the melancholy coming out more, I would say by 9, and then definitely by 12, 13, definitely in her teen years, where the sanguine was there, but it showed up more as almost like ADD tendencies, like super hyper focused, and then, not being able to focus at all. And then our son that was super melancholy, like he's almost pure sanguine now. Like he's doing pretty good about balancing himself. But one thing that I would say is as your children reach teenage years, and we talk about temperament all the time, so Sam kind of knows some, but teenage years and above, I invite them to study their temperament because I think it's an important place to start as an adult. And I would also not feel bad about correcting them when they think that their temperament, our adult daughter thinks her temperament is something that it is not. Don't feel bad about correcting them when you need to. So, I think that it's all good. It's a fun journey, and it always sort of lays underneath everything. So in all of your parenting, you want to keep these things in mind because you can't. It used to be just that before you knew about temperament, you could just yell at everybody and they would all take it the same. That's not how it works. You yell at children. You got children of each temperament and you yell at everybody. The choleric's going to be like, all right, I know what I need to do. I need to fix it. The phlegmatic's going to be like, oh no, I love her. I don't want to be uncomfortable. I want to make sure that I fix it. Mom, what can I do for you? The melancholy is going to be like take it as a personal attack, even if you yelled at everybody. And he or she might be spiteful later. The sanguine's going to forget that you were yelling. Becca Joy says, my melancholy girl cried all the time too. She became more sanguine as she grew. And I think maybe she was sad because she couldn't flit like a butterfly yet. That's funny. And Erin Elizabeth says, when he was 3, he used to go around telling people, I'm Cal and I'm a leader. That was my first inkling because it was totally self-imposed. Yep. He may be choleric then. So my biggest tips for parenting these temperaments, because it doesn't matter what you are and how you show up, because you have to show up in the way that they need you to connect with them, because we're sort of self-realized parents and we're working with our children in a way that meets them, not just what meets us, because they don't know how to do that yet. So if you have a choleric child, the best thing you can do is realize that cholerics only yield to other cholerics or people that they trust and that have their crap together. So if you are a parent that is not choleric and you are struggling with lessons or just day-to-day living with a choleric child, know that you have to look at yourself and make sure that you at least appear to have it all together because the choleric child will not trust you or follow you otherwise. The sanguine child, you're going to have to keep things exciting for them, or they're going to find ways to get into trouble, I think. And that's hashtag my life with Jacob.
In ways that you're like, where in the world did that idea even come from?
Yeah. So you want to keep things exciting and moving for them. But also, that doesn't mean that you just let their their sanguineness go, because they have to learn, like you're supposed to teach them how to ground, how to have some staying power, how to, work on their will. And then the melancholy child, you want to make sure that you are validating their feelings, but also helping them to not wallow. So they need more service. They need to serve others. The best way that you can help a melancholy child that's sad is to acknowledge their sadness, love them for it, give them a hug, and say, "Now, will you come and help me?" Getting them out of like looking at that mirror of themselves and turning it around to help others. Getting help is getting them to help you is a good way. The phlegmatic child, just don't let them sit all the time. Let them know that they're going to take longer to eat. And especially, I would say, that's the child. All children need some kind of physical activity, obviously. But because Sam is phlegmatic, I won't let him quit crying. Because I think he'd be like, because I said when he whines, I go, "So what else do you want to do? You want to go do some soccer? Do you want to go do some baseball?" He's like, "No." I said, "Well, then I'm doing karate." and he's over the hump. He's over the hump now of the comfort hump. So you want to keep them moving, because otherwise they'll just turn into a toadstool. But anyway, is there anything else you want to add? Thank you, Erin. Erin says, "Best advice ever. So grateful for both of you. Happy to be here." Anything else you can add?
Don't think so.
What I know what I was going to ask you. I meant to tell you this beforehand, so I don't mean to put you on the spot. But we've been married for almost 14 years. When we met and I started talking about temperament, did you think I was crazy?
No.
Be truthful.
No, I mean, because the job I was working at the time, I had to meet people all the time, all day long, and I was about trying to figure out how to
which person was going to show up.
Yeah, it was about figuring out how I was going to get the information out of them I needed, because, I was a reporter, and there were certain things that appealed to certain people, and there was, because there's certain people that would see me and they'd run into their office and shut the door.
So what temperament do you think Joyce was? Joyce was his boss when we got married.
She was choleric. I know she was the boss and she needed to get stuff done, but I felt she was choleric.
But she was always kind to you. She was also older.
Yeah.
So she was more balanced.
Yeah.
Courtney, also choleric, not so kind. Right?
Well, I don't know.
Right?
But
she was also pregnant at the time.
Yes.
Pregnant choleric don't go well together. I mean, we do go well together, but
Well, and at that job, I was at the burnt out place.
You were.
That was part of that, I was at the burnout place.
Yeah. Okay, I was going to see here. A couple more comments and then we're going to be done. I'm wondering about the sanguine melancholy when they're mad. She will not yield and argues constantly. I don't know how to approach her as a sanguine or a melancholy or the angry choleric she's showing. So when they're really mad, when a melancholy is really mad, remember first, anger is a secondary emotion. Always. Doesn't matter what temperament you are. So when somebody's angry, they're usually sad, scared, frustrated. There's something else going on. So the best thing you can probably say is, "I hear you. I'm sorry." And then you can also say, "But I can't let you be mean like that right here. So let's move to your bedroom, or let's move out of the living room, or let's move," and you might have to pick her up and move her. There's nothing wrong with that. I have moms that go, "Oh, but I'm just a positive mom and I can't intervene." I'm like, "No, you can. That's actually part of it. You have to be able to pick them up and move them. You're not spanking, you're not hurting, you're not doing anything like that. But you might have to do a bear hug, and you might have to pick them up and move them if they're having a major meltdown tantrum." And so, I would just allow her to get through it and just say, "I love you. When you're done, we can talk. So when you're done, sometimes they want you to leave. Teenagers might want you to leave, but they really don't want you to leave. They might just be telling you that. So you could say, "I'm going to sit here on the bed with you until you're done." And just say, "I'm sorry. Your job is to disconnect. Not disconnect from like loving this child, but disconnect from whatever the conflict is. And I'm telling you, it's not easy. As a cleric, I'm like, nah, you need to do it right now. Then as soon as I figured that piece out, Eleanor and I got along a lot better. But that was a struggle constantly. So I had to be able to say, I love you. I'm just going to be over here. When you're done, this is where I'll be. But if they want you to stay, then you might want to just sit at the end of the bed. Be okay. Disconnect. Don't be part of their tantrum. Michelle says, suggestions on how to balance out your own temperament. Increase the will. So yeah. So I would say cholerics and sanguines have will that needs to be tamed. And melancholics and phlegmatics have will that needs to be built up. Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely do things that require deadline. What would you say has helped you the most? Because Michelle's the same temperament.
What has helped me the most balancing it?
Like making sure that because even when we're balanced, it doesn't mean we don't fall prey to unbalance from time to time. Like severe procrastination, that would be unbalanced phlegmatic.
Well, it's about like with that, it's about balancing like what's bringing you more comfortable now, what's going to bring you even more comfortable later, and balancing out the now and the later. I might be comfortable not doing this thing here, but it's going to make me really uncomfortable if I don't do it by this point.
It's going to get really ugly before it gets better, kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's like having in my head go, okay, this might feel good to not do this thing right now, but it's really not going to feel good later if I don't do it.
So like for myself as a choleric, I will step back and instead of going to the worry place, I will go, okay, what's the worst case scenario? So once I know it, then I can go, okay, well, that's not going to happen and I can move forward. But that doesn't happen for you. It helps you when I bring it up, but you don't generally get to that place on your own.
No.
So like,
there's times where it's like, I'm just going to go to sleep now.
And that's okay. But I would say definitely as you increase your will, give yourself deadlines to get things done and focus on the comfort that will come from doing it, from getting over the hump. Because you got to get over the hump in order to be, looking forward to the next space. One thing that that I would keep in mind is as a phlegmatic, so it feels like it's this uphill battle, right? But if you get over the hump, then you realize it's a plateau for a bit, and then there's going to be another hill coming, but you got time to catch your breath. If you are giving up when you're like right here on the hill and the top is here, you're never going to get over the hump. You have to just push yourself to get over the hump, and it might be a lot of like positive self-talk. I can do this. I can do hard things. I can get over this hump. Mm-hmm. And it might be something you have to tell yourself every day. Watch the mindset stuff that we're going to do later this month and next month, because in the mindset stuff, we're gonna tackle things that each temperament needs and sort of the ugly things that we say to ourselves. And all temperaments say ugly things to themselves. All of them do.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, thank you for joining us. Join us next week as we talk about, what are we talking about next week? Because I forgot already. How to plan when your older child isn't reading yet. And so I'm not talking about your first grader. I'm talking about your child that's second grade and up. So we're going to talk about that with regards to planning. And so join us next week for that. If you are watching this on the replay, please, and you like us, click the subscribe and the bell notification in YouTube so that you can get notified of new videos. Next week, we should be live on YouTube as well. And we will see you guys later.
Bye.
Have a good week.